Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. And here today in Ohio, and I drove through Columbus so many times on my way through, but I don't make it out to the western part of Columbus very often. But I'm sitting with the fellas from Beachy Barns, and they let me have their desk here. So if it looks like I'm selling sheds to anybody, I'm not. I'm just doing some good interviews and having fun. Guys, you just want to introduce yourself a little bit about who you are, what your title is, your position, what you do, that kind of thing.
Okay. I'm Dale Beachy. I'm the owner of the company. Been with the company for 41 years since it started. My dad started the business back in 82.
That's awesome.
So, basically, my day-to-day work or job is I deliver all the pre-built buildings, and I have other people to take care of the rest of it. So
very nice. Very nice. And then Tim.
I'm Tim, general manager here at Beachy Barns. Been here since 2006. Moved into the area and found Dale here in Beachy Barns, and just been here ever since. Can't get away. So
yeah.
I'm general manager here, slash sales. So, it's been a good ride. I've been here since 2006 for a short time span there, 5.5 years. I was gone overseas, but came straight back to Beachy Barns.
And you were doing mission work.
Yeah.
Okay. And where'd you go to do that?
So we were in Indonesia for 5.5 years. Went over there, started a chocolate factory from the ground up, and it was a good ride. It's still operational and going well. So.
That's pretty cool. Well, I know you wear a lot of hats as general manager, but you do the same whenever you're in ministry, right? So
that's right.
I know that's just cool. There's so many guys that seem to be in the industry that also do mission work. You find that from so many different countries. So, Dale, 41 years. That's good. Not to make you feel old. I'm 42. So I'm sorry about that, to do that to you. But, we were kind of discussing off air even before we got on here, not a whole lot of shed companies around in 1982 and, maybe a handful in the 70s. But, how'd your dad get started? Like, how did Beachy Barns get created? He just, got bored and said, I'm going to start building some sheds, or what's the story?
Well, he was a farmer all his life, and he also had a backhoe through the 60s, early 70s, and then he was ordained as a minister and deacon in the church. So he got rid of the backhoe, the excavating, and was just farming. Then when I was out of school at 17, I only went through 10th grade, so he wanted to do something that we could work together, so he started this. He always kind of had a hankering to do something like that, and my brother-in-law in Lancaster, Pennsylvania was doing it, and so that kind of gave him a little more push to do sheds.
So what was building sheds like in 1982? I bet that was, so you were 17.
Yeah.
And you're out here and working with your old man, working with Dad. And what'd that look like? I mean, it's like now you've got all this equipment out here. You've got, things have come a long way. But what did it look like in 1982? Building smaller sheds, I'm assuming.
Yeah, most of them probably would have been smaller, and we did a lot more building on site, more than we actually delivered pre-built.
Would that have been like? Would you have still been using runners? You wouldn't have even made them portable. You wouldn't have been thinking of moving them, maybe.
Yeah, they would have been portable, but
okay.
It's just we didn't have the equipment at that time, and we started out just the two of us for a year or two, and then my sister got married, so my brother-in-law joined us, and so there was three of us probably through most of the 80s, maybe early 90s. It was just the three of us working together. And just for the record, my dad was 52 when he started the business.
No way.
So he was building out on site past my age, and I think I'm about done with that. So
I'm done with that. And he's like 10 years older than me. I would never think of starting something like that. And I've got an 18-year-old son right now. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, there's no way. I don't think I could. Men were so much tougher, I think, back then.
Yeah,
I think so.
I wouldn't have the audacity to even start a shed company at the age of 52. That's pretty awesome, man. So then what does building actually look like then? You had a small or a big shop, or you guys already had put something together?
Now we had the current shop that we have. The old shop that we have today was a farm tool shed, 54 by 90, and we started out with 2/3 of it concreted, and we used that part of it building sheds. And it wasn't until the mid-90s that we had insulation in the building. So in the wintertime, it was fairly cold.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember prefabbing walls and taking them into the garage and painting them, and then bringing them back out in the shop. And I think I could still find some paint spots on the floor today on the garage where we painted buildings.
What did it, styles, like, you guys have this beautiful picture on the wall behind us. The audience can't see, but we'll try to get some pictures or something of it. There's so many different styles that you offer now and that the shed industry sees now. What did you guys start with? Like a mini barn or like just a small utility?
We would have started with the mini barn. We had a lower, what we called the economy at the time, and then a taller barn-style building would have been the first one. A lot of you won't remember it, but it used to be the little red barn in the backyard, but it's come a long way from that.
Man, I remember we've seen a couple of those that we were selling to new customers, so they eventually came around to buy something new. What about hauling equipment during this time? You were kind of joking around about, they didn't have these fancy mules and trailers that they've got now. What would that have been like for you and your dad, who's 52, keep in mind that he's out here doing this?
Yeah. He actually delivered till he was in his low 70s, pre-built buildings. So anyway, that's after he had double knee replacements. I'm
already scared of him. Like, this guy sounds way tougher than, like, I'm terrified of this guy. He's like, I don't need knees. I can go move sheds. It's fine. Me, I'm like whimpering over a small code. Yeah. But so early 70s, what would you guys have used? Because I really want to get to the story of the truck eventually, but what would you start with?
We started out with a 68 Ford pickup. It was a farm truck, and he had hauled fertilizer on it, so the beds the sides of the bed were rusted and they were flopping around, so they took the bed off and put a wooden bed on it. And the first few buildings, I think we stacked on the wooden flatbed and hauled them out. But then the trailer, we got a burned out mobile home trailer,
Mm-hmm.
house trailer.
Oh yeah.
Cut it down and made a bed for it, and had a handyman jack for the hoist. Had it on the front, had a bracket that it fit in, and we jack up the front of the trailer that way. But first we had to, for the building, slide the building, we used a pry bar, and picked it up and put like inch metal pipes underneath the skids in the back, and then went to the front and pushed it back till the weight was towards the back end of the trailer, and then we jack it up and roll it on back and drive out from underneath it, put jack stands under it so it wouldn't fall on the ground, and then we'd have to use our jack again to get the jack stands out and drop it on down.
Like, I would tell you that at 52 I couldn't do it, but I mean I kind of understand where you're coming from, because I was just redneck enough to kind of find my way around doing stuff. And when you have to, you have to, yeah. Right? What is the saying? The mother of invention,
necessity,
is necessity. Thank you.
I'm not sure.
There's a reason why you've been in business in 40 years and me 6.
Yeah.
It's because you know your stuff. Very good. Necessity. You needed to do something. You had to create something.
Yeah. It
was out of necessity that you figured out to use a handyman jack for a hoist. I mean, you just don't hear that doesn't happen today, right? I think those stories are the things that people appreciate. We were kind of talking about Gideon being one of the first guests on the show, and how, he talked about starting on rough times. What was cool was he was talking about shed prices, and you guys have this cool thing, and I'll have to show the audience this, and you gave me permission to put this out here. So I'd really, salespeople, you need to take a look at these prices and think about commission, right, Tim? This would be, this would run some people right out of a job application today. Sometime in the 80s, back then we weren't thinking that we'd be looking at this in the future, but an 8x8 economy for $455 and a standard 8x8 for $540. So you've got a few different sizes on here. You did do 8, 10, 12, and 14 wides, but the biggest being a 14x20, and that was $16.95. So isn't that wild to think about, that you can't get an 8x8 for the price that you could get a 16 or 14x20? So what would these have been material wise? Like, what would you have been using? Just going to your local hardware store? Where would you guys have like gotten your supplies?
Yeah, probably at that time would have been a local lumber yard.
Yeah,
for the first few years.
Yeah, and then shingled roof, obviously, and just regular wood siding.
Shingle roof, 5/8 T111, fir T111 usually.
Okay, fir T111.
3/4 inch tongue groove floor.
You are using 3/4 inch. Look at you guys.
I think we've used that
pretty much. What I find interesting about this, even still in the 80s, is, we talked about like the on-site construction, this 5% additional charge for on-site for 8, 10, and 12 wides. I'm assuming you didn't on 14s, you just didn't do them on site, was probably the case, but free delivery within 50 miles, even back then.
Yeah.
Now, would this have been with the Isuzu? Would this have been like the 68 Ford?
The Isuzu we got in 88.
Okay.
And we had a 3/4 ton Chevy 4-wheel drive in between.
Okay.
So let him pick up.
You have so they have like a little Isuzu truck with a shed on the back, and it looks really cool sitting in the office. And that's whenever I asked about that, you're like, that's what we used to deliver with. And I was like, what? And you're like, yeah, and he showed me the picture, of course, of what you and Dad used to do. Cupolas, $29.50 for an add-on. Windows, $34.50. Weather vanes, $21.50. Decorative vents. I love this. Treated floor, priced according to size. You like being able to still find these from that time and just compare that to now. What goes through your mind on that, Tim, as a GM? You wear a lot of hats, like we said. You've been in it since 2006.
2006, yep.
How much have things changed just at Beachy Barns in that time?
So when I came, we tended toward building on site a lot more than building here still. It was before we had a mule here. So I was on site for the first 6 years, I believe, before I then became manager here in the shop. So I would say we did by far more on site back then.
Yeah, percentage-wise, we would have, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. We were still delivering with a rollback. I got to work with his dad for about 2 years before he passed away. So he's a great guy. Yeah,
probably outworked you, right? What I'm guessing. Yeah. I don't sound like anybody could hold up to this guy. I'm still reeling at the fact that he's 52 when he decides to start a barn business. I'm like, man, that's pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
And I think back then, though, you just didn't have the freedom to be like, I can't do that. You got to do something. You weren't worried about, what it was going to cost you on your body, labor wise. And
yeah. And he was a tough guy.
Well, there you go. There you go.
ShedHub.com is the shed industry's very first two-sided marketplace that allows you, the shed seller, to list your inventory on a site specifically designed for selling sheds. Shed Hub establishes more qualified sales leads and helps your customers find you with a simple online search. Shoppers searching where to buy sheds and sheds near me have grown by 200% in the last 2 years. This means even if the buyer wants to visit a sales lot to purchase a shed, their shed buying journey started with a simple Google search. They can actually check out and purchase the shed straight from Shed Hub if they prefer to shop online. Shed Hub does not charge any commission for sheds you sell. We simply charge the monthly subscription. Your sales commission is still yours to keep. Sheds listed on Shed Hub will have first page search results in 91% of cities, or where to buy sheds is searched. For special pricing only available through Shed Geek, simply go to geek.shedhub.com to see the promo codes that allow you to save as much as 50% off the first 12 months of your subscription, and over 75% for companies with multiple sales locations. Sell more sheds using shedhub.com.
So, yeah, you definitely came on, Tim, before the mule was here, before the trailers were here to make moving easier. And really, you guys have went to more of a portable shed primary focused as opposed to building on site. Do you still feel like that on site's a large percentage of what you?
Yeah, over the years, last number of years, it's still about 35% of our business.
Okay. Yeah.
Several reasons for that is obviously some places you can't get in.
Mm-hmm.
And our buildings are all, if we sell a 14 by 20, the floor is 14 feet wide, and then we have the 8-inch overhangs on each side.
Yeah.
So when you get up to 16, we're up to 17 and a half, and so the permits and stuff are almost not justifiable in our situation because we're set up for it anyway. We have a truck dedicated for building on site. So, yeah, some people would argue that, but for our operation, that's the way we feel the best way to do it. But
it just seems like building on site's been kind of part of the DNA here at Beachy Barns. Like it's effortlessly incorporated into the business. It's kind of who we are, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So you guys run a crew or a couple crews to do that, or do you send the same crew out like that builds in-house?
we have kind of a different operation from most people. It's not as efficient as some of the others that build strictly in the shop. Probably if we go to the next level, we'd have a line that just builds in the shop. But we have one crew that prefabs all the walls, the doors, trusses, and everything.
Yeah.
And another 3-man crew that assembles them, whether it's in the shop or out on site.
Well,
so
you guys' shop, when you pull up, and I said this, and while I would never mention on air the antithesis of any of this, not everybody's barn shop is this nice or this clean. Like you guys obviously care about what you've done, like how you've done it, how you present to the customer. You've got this really cool little display here that shows like your Duratemp siding and your windows and your shingles and the floor and the ramp system and everything. I don't think that there's a lot of guys out there selling sheds or even manufacturing sheds that take that level of concern into consideration. Do you guys get because you're near a major metropolitan area here with Columbus, it's close enough. Do you pull a lot of business where people want to come in and see that before they actually purchase? Because, what's the topic for the last 5 years? It seems it's not going away is online sales, and maybe identifying what online sales means needs to be its own specific podcast one day. But you guys see that kind of from 1982 to now that there's had to be a shift more in that direction.
yeah, I definitely think there's been quite a bit of a shift toward that. We used to go to Home and Garden Show, several shows. I remember back in the 80s and 90s, on a Saturday, the aisles were packed so full you felt like people didn't even see you because they were just flocks of people going through. And by the 2000s and 2015 and on, it just seemed to just kind of dropped off. as far as the attendance at the shows.
I wonder why. Like, I wonder why that is.
Younger generation
Yeah.
doesn't go out to that kind of thing. They go online to shop. And even the older generation. I guess I'm not the younger generation, and I do that too. So.
It kind of the convenience.
Yeah, but it's interesting, and this has nothing to do with that necessarily, but when we went to the show back in the 80s and 90s, there might have been 2 or 3 other companies there. And I talked to somebody just recently, said in 23, which we quit going in 20 was the last year we went, and there was 7 shed companies at that same show.
Oh, wow.
So not everybody's given up on that. So.
Yeah. Wow. The competition is thick, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we are seeing more and more shed manufacturers just kind of come to light. And I think a lot of that is just, I think a lot of folks start with a barn shop and then want to do their own thing at some point. And I think that's the sign of an independent person who wants to sort of create that. So I get it. Tim, what do you do, man, whenever you just head down and focus on Beachy Barns and say, we can't focus on what the competition's doing, even if there's so much more out there. We got to focus on what we offer. We got to focus on our process.
Yeah, I think that's really been our focus throughout the years. I've always been impressed with Beachy Barns since I've started, is their pride in how long we've been around, and quality. It's just been a constant focus. I just love it. It's easy to be proud of the product, that's for sure. And just what Beachy Barns stands for and the name that's in the community, it's amazing. Like, we've been around for so long. You ask people that walk in how they heard about us, it's like, well, Beachy Barns has been around. So
just always known about you. It's kind of grew up with it at 40. What are we at? 41 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. At 41 years, it's kind of hard not to. Always give a shout out to Cook Sheds, because they were that for us in the Southern Illinois community. It seemed like for years, and to the point when we were selling other sheds, people would say, "What kind of Cook Shed you got?" And it was like, "Oh, it's not Cook." So I mean, I don't know. Maybe your competition's like, "What kind of Beachy barn you got there?" But competition is what it is. It's necessary. It makes us all do better, and it keeps us honest. Like, one person was telling me recently, you want to go eat somewhere and you're driving down the interstate, and I know this for a fact now, because if we do stop to eat, me and my wife traveling in the RV, is like, well, we need to find a place with some restaurants. We need to find a place where there's a restaurant, because then that's the only thing you got to choose from. People like to compare and shop and come in and see, and you guys got a beautiful display here that you can show people not only what can be ordered, what can be built on site, but then you've got inventory on site for purchase. So it kind of works out good. And I would imagine you guys draw from that Columbus area.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Columbus,
just, go ahead.
All of Central Ohio, basically.
Yeah. 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 It's just a huge population center, for sure, that has been able to keep things going for 41 years. And
have you ever had a customer ask you about how to supply power to their shed? Do you sell electrical kits as an upsell for your sheds currently? Do you want an easy, no-hassle option to offer for your customers when they want to add electric to their sheds? Check out EcoEthics Solar. EcoEthics Solar is looking for shed manufacturers and shed dealers who want to be able to provide a solar electric option to their line of sheds. With EcoEthics Solar, you can purchase the SunSaver, a solar product specifically designed with the shed owner in mind. Want to offer a larger product that can operate a full tiny home? At EcoEthics Solar, they have the necessary product, training, and capacity to meet your customers' needs. Installation for the SunSaver is simple and takes just 45 minutes. You can even install it right there on your sales lot or at the manufacturing facility. EcoEthics Solar even provides hands-on in-person training if necessary. Plus, they will provide you with video tutorials and handouts with specific installation instructions that keeps adding a solar-powered electrical system to your shed fast and simple. In many cases, the end user can even perform the installation once the shed is delivered to their home. If you are interested in purchasing a unit for display and then drop shipping your orders, or even ordering multiple units to have available as you build, contact my friends at EcoEthics Solar at 336-250-1284 or email sales@ecoethicsolar.com.
So move forward now a little bit, Dale. What do things look like now versus 41 years ago? You're not using an Isuzu truck. You're not using a handyman jack for a hoist on your trailer. You guys have moved on to newer equipment, I'm assuming.
Yeah. That's maybe not the latest and greatest, but it's at least up to the average.
It's definitely not a.
Other than I still run an old Mule 3, which some people would laugh at, but that's
what?
That's okay.
I've ran one, and I have more respect for you after doing it. I was terrible at it. I did okay a couple of times on a 5 and a 6, or even a 7. The track mule, I've ran it, once or twice. You don't want to get me in any barrel races at any shed hauler events, because I don't know if liability insurance goes that high, but those things are tough.
They're actually pretty easy if you
once you know how to do it.
I've run one since 2008, so
is that right?
That's all I've run, so I don't know any better, so I'm fine.
So if you went to a 4 or 5, you'd be like, "Man, what have they done? They lost their minds."
I'm too old to learn new tricks.
Why'd they mess it up? And then looks like you're running a Ford pickup out there, and maybe a trailer. I'm assuming that you're hauling things around now on a trailer. So things have changed quite a bit. And you're telling me I can't get an 8x8 for $495.
We'll sell your replacement doors for your old one.
Yeah. That'll work. I'll take it. Tim Byler. I don't even think we got that on there. It's we might have just went with Tim earlier. Did you kind of grow up around sheds? You said you grew up in Ontario.
I did.
So probably a little bit different scene there.
It is. I grew up on a dairy farm. So
okay. Man, dairy farmers and shed guys always meet in the middle somewhere. There's so many dairy farmers that also build sheds or have moved on to build sheds.
I don't blame them at all.
Yeah. So what does the shed game look like? I've talked to quite a few guys up there in Canada. Shout out Alex Freedom, who's always posting in Shed Haulers page. I always like to watch him, and I know he's a hauler for Premier, I think it is, and he's always so supportive. But what's it look like for you growing up there? Did you see much of the shed business, or was Beachy Barns kind of your introduction to the industry?
Well, not really. I had an uncle from Kentucky who was into it.
Okay.
Ever since I can remember. But up in that area, there was nothing.
Yeah.
There were no mini barns, no sheds when I was growing up. It just wasn't a thing.
Probably the fact that it's code, it's harder to build, I would think, year round, and you don't have the labor force probably as available, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Pretty strict building codes as well. I think is something that they run into.
Yeah.
So I did pole barns for 5 years before I moved down here. So
did you?
Construction was, I was into it, but this beats that. So
I always find it interesting to hear, like, you actually use the term pole barn. And the reason I like that is because I grew up in the Midwest, Southern Illinois, and everybody said pole barn. But it seems like every time I go somewhere up north, everybody says pole shed.
okay.
But, I was talking to Gary Reichert from Garage Shed Carport Builder Magazine, and he was saying, I think he lives in maybe Michigan or something, I don't know, somewhere up north. But he said, everything's a shed. I got an 80 by 160 in my backyard, and it's a shed. People still call it a shed. And that's one thing I've wanted to do is kind of start being able to represent the post frame pole barn, pole shed, but then also sort of this, like, the steel industry, the way you see like the square tubing and carports and, expanded metal and things like that, where they go out, 30, 40, 50 feet wide or whatever. Do you guys feel like that's trenching onto the portable shed industry territory, or do you feel like competition, quote unquote competition, is still sort of the traditional, like, storage unit Is that like, how do you sell? Do you sell against getting somebody ownership in their backyard versus going to a storage unit? Or what's kind of your company philosophy, with sales? Not everybody at once. Don't you dare.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out, like I know on site is a big part of what you do, but do you see more pole barns here? I mean, do you see competition with that very often?
Not necessarily. I would say we run more up against garages, I would say.
Okay. Like on-site garage building.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got a lot of people coming to us saying, well, we price garages here and there, and they want us to price. Seems like the last few years, it's really trended toward the bigger buildings like that.
Are you guys seeing more bigger buildings yourself? Like, are you guys feeling like the need or the call to go to these larger? I mean, you're seeing them. I don't know how big you guys. I know in the 80s you went 14 by 20.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do now.
Well, 16 wide and whatever length.
Okay.
I mean, we have, I think, 16 by 32 on our price list, but we've done 16 by 40 and whatever. I mean, that's,
Is it
whatever length.
Does that seem more common that people are asking for those more often now?
It seems like it. Yeah, I would definitely say it's trending more towards that. But there's also, I'm not sure why, but Ohio, and I think it's still this way, used to be anything over 200 square feet required a foundation, but it wasn't specified what the foundation is. Didn't have to be frost protected. Over 400 square feet had to be a frost protected foundation. But anymore, a lot of them are letting us get by with a compacted gravel pad and anchors, at least up to 400.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily ideal, but they're allowing that now in a lot of the areas. Which concrete floor would also be another option, or pier foundation, wood pier foundation, which we do that, but not the concrete.
Well, I was going to ask you if you guys put in any pads. Do you do the gravel pad installation?
No, we've got a friend of ours that does that.
Okay. We
recommend him, and he deals directly with the customer.
Yeah. Do you run into much permitting issue? Is it? I imagine it's closer to town. Closer to town. Listen to me, I sound so country. Closer to a larger city base, a larger metropolitan area like Columbus. But are they still pretty lenient with you guys in rural areas?
Codes are actually basically the same in a lot of counties as they are in the city.
Okay.
It's just more people try to get by without it in the country because they're depending on where they're at. But,
yeah.
Permitting's definitely a constant hassle here.
We have to have a lot of engineered drawings, a fair amount.
Yeah. For roof system or for just in general?
The whole building and the foundation.
Yeah.
How it's tied down or what the foundation is.
Seems kind of, I don't know, seems kind of strange. You guys probably don't get the weather that you get like in Oklahoma here. And I would imagine it's probably a little bit more laid back there. So seems almost a little bit backwards.
Yeah.
Maybe at times.
We do get probably once or twice a year that we get 50, 60 mile an hour winds. But
yeah.
Generally not too much higher than that.
Yeah. Well, you guys build, I mean, sort of your philosophy is to build a quality shed, right? I mean, I think that seems to be what you have on your lot is to go more toward quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Where does that philosophy come from? Is that instilled from Dad?
Pretty well, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so. He was very particular with the buildings he produced. He never wanted to be a big operator. Matter of fact, we've grown quite a bit since he's no longer, which that's fine. He was content with what he had.
Yeah.
And so he never pushed growth as much. And but the interesting thing about him was he was more particular with the shed that went out the door than he was with the car that he drove to church on Sunday. Car was the big deal if it was dirty, but
Yeah.
you didn't want to leave mud tracks on the inside on the floor when you were done on the shed.
What would your dream rent-to-own program look like? Picture it now. Would it have cutting-edge technology with integrations throughout the shed industry? Or would it include traditional financing and multiple same-as-cash offerings? Perhaps your ideal rent-to-own program puts money back in your pocket. Perhaps it has a unique way to onboard and train your dealer network. Wherever your mind goes and whatever your dream consists of, Newfound Rentals can help you. Give us a call today at 316-536-0472 and let's discuss your dream.
Yeah. I think I try to think about the industry itself and where that comes from. You see a lot of that, obviously a focus on quality. You see a focus on quality so much that the norm is more the focus on quality, that being different is a little bit more of a struggle because everybody's going for that. Not necessarily just trying to get a cheap shed out the door and trying to get someone, which, that's what some customers request.
Yeah. But
that shed's a reflection of your craftsmanship and not just what they want. So how do you overcome that? What do you do? What would you do, Tim? Customer comes in and says, "Hey man, I know you make good stuff, but I just need a cheap shed out in my yard." What's your approach to that?
Sell them on the quality that we build.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I lean heavily on how long we've been around. Just, we've been around since 82. We're not going anywhere. If you buy from us, you're going to get the quality, you're going to get the care.
Do you get a lot of referrals because of that?
Yeah. Yeah, we do get a lot of referrals.
I'm guessing with a name like Beachy that's been around since 82, they're telling their neighbors, repeat business. I'm sure you get some folks that come back. Have you seen anybody, Dale, that you guys built for something in like the 80s and then you built something for them recently?
I don't know if that happened recently or not, but we have done that within the last 5 years. They brought in an invoice from back in the 80s and either moved or
came right back to you though.
Yeah.
Was happy with what they got and happy to come back and have you do it again. Yeah. Do they remember you? Do you tell them the story or?
I don't know that very many do.
Yeah.
I do know it was probably 10 or 15 years after my dad passed away. They remembered the little man, the old man with the little white beard that delivered their shed, but I don't know. Maybe I didn't have a distinct enough feature to.
You need to grow a beard, man. Get a beard, and you'll be like, "What are you talking about? That guy's still here. I done had 3 knee replacements, and I'm still kicking."
20 years ago, I couldn't grow a beard, but I could now.
It is crazy though. A few months ago, a customer came in that got a shed in 87, needed doors replaced on it, but loves it. Says it's still in good condition. So
you sold him replacement doors,
yeah.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
1987, that shed's still around. I've seen sheds that certainly don't make it that long.
Well, the first shed we ever built is still standing within about 10 miles from here.
Really?
Go past it quite a bit when I'm out delivering.
How many times do you do that just in the 100-mile radius or so? Like you go by, like, do you tell your kids, you're like, "Yep, built that shed"? Are you like every other dad? It's like, yep.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Built that shed, moved that shed, put that shed there. Like my kids are like, "We get it." We don't care, but we get it.
We're empty nesters now, so.
Hey, I'll tell you what, we're right behind you.
Yeah.
We're getting close. My daughter just got married on Friday, and my son's moving out for college this fall. So me and Deanna thought we'd get out here on the road and do some of these interviews and get to meet some of you nice folks. And we really got to enjoy a nice meal today and spend some time together. Got to walk around and look at your barn just a little bit. And I hope to do a little bit more of that and get some B-roll so that people can just kind of see. What's your philosophy on growth, Dale? What do you want to do at this point? You're 40 years into this. Are you hoping to scale it down? Step away eventually, sell it out. You want to grow to take over the shed world, or what's kind of your mindset there?
Well, right now I'm just kind of maintain. I would like to back off in the next 5 to 10 years, slow down and let somebody else take over.
Yeah.
If someone comes along and wants to push sales and push growth, I'm fine with that. That's what happened about 10 or 12 years ago. Somebody came along and asked for a sales job and took it, and we kind of went to the next step and grew some, and kind of maintained that for a number of years now. And if that happens again, fine. If it doesn't, as long as we've got food on the table and we're making a good living and providing good jobs for the employees.
I love it,
we'll stick with that.
I love it. I love that attitude. Tim, what's your thoughts, man? Like just go out and kill it, or is it sell, or is it just kind of slow and steady growth wins the race kind of thing?
That would be the philosophy.
Yeah.
I think, slow, steady growth.
Seen too many shed companies get ahead of themselves, going out and over-promising or stuff like that. Seems like you guys have just got a really cool laid-back attitude about getting things done, but doing it with the customer in mind. Man, I certainly, I know I appreciate it. Dale, what's your favorite, before we get out of here, what's your favorite shed story? Give me let's go with not just favorite, but let's go with a good memory that you've got in 40 years that I think people would appreciate. That anything that comes to mind in moving sheds or building sheds or selling sheds over a 40-year period.
I don't know that I really have anything that stands out to me, but one thing, it's not necessarily a story about a certain event, but I know we were dealing with a picky customer one.
No.
It was a build on site, yeah. It just one.
Just one in all this time.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You did good.
Yeah. It's the only one we had. I just remember Dad saying, well, if we can satisfy this guy, his friends are going to find out about it because they know he's a picky guy. And if we can make him happy, we can make anybody happy.
I think I sold something to that guy. I'm not sure, but I think me and you both know that customer.
But that's helped me over the years. And,
yeah,
when you get those customers that you just can't make them happy, seems like it.
I found the worst customers were always the closest people to me. If it was family or friends, it's like, no, go buy from somebody else. I can't make you happy. I promise you I can't. My price would be too bad. My service would be horrible. Go buy from the other guy and be mad at him. That just seemed to be the closer they are to you, the harder they are to please. Bad experiences over the time, or has things been mostly good? You feel like, I would assume the bad kind of comes to the territory of pickups and things like that, where you unfortunately have to go out and do. And you guys are vertically integrated. I don't think you mind me saying that.
That's fine.
I love the vertical integration model. You build them, you sell them, you rent on them, you pick them up. Everything happens here. That makes everything so simple. Yeah,
it does help. And part of the thing I enjoy about delivering is I'm the last touch to the customer. Not that, anybody else could do it too.
Sure.
But when the owner comes out and delivers and makes sure they're happy with it.
Yeah.
I think it does add something to it. And
for sure,
not only that, I'm better off out there away from the employees and let somebody else manage employees.
And you prefer that.
That's what I prefer.
Yeah, you prefer that. Thank goodness for someone who's vulnerable, who knows their strengths and weaknesses and uses those to their advantage. I'm the same way. I love managing people. I didn't like disciplining people. Managing was always good because I loved to see their growth. Always loved it whenever I got to supervise someone with more talent than me, because my goal was never to suppress their talent. It was always to try to put into them and see what they could do. And I love to watch them just fly, watch them do, if it's go far beyond anything I could ever accomplish, that was fine, because you knew that you got to play a part of that. And yeah, I always enjoyed that. But discipline, I just wasn't the biggest fan of discipline. Just doesn't, I don't know. It's not my thing. Tim, 2006, what's a favorite memory you have over this time?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's why I pay myself big money.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's something about that adrenaline rush that you get when you pull up to the job site to put up a building, knock that thing out in 2 hours or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Look back to those days that was a good time.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, you've been here dedicating yourself to Beachy Barns for a long time, and you know, Dale told me he was going to give you a pay raise. I don't know. I said, you know, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on air, but you know, Dale's like, "What are you talking about? Cut."
Can I invite you back in 6 months?
You can, absolutely.
I used to enjoy your podcast, but now I don't believe anything
That's
you say
not true.
anymore.
You never enjoyed it. What I like about you guys is I mean this in the most sincere of compliments, is the simplicity in which you operate. Whenever you pull up, everything's clean, everything's tidy. Whenever I got in here and started moving stuff around just to put the equipment down, I noticed just the amount of care that you take in the small details that people don't see. And I think that's a manifestation of what's inside of you that like leaks out, and the customers and your employees see that, I think. And I think that only happens whenever you're doing the right things, and your prayer life's right. So we was talking about Norman Vincent Peale. I was listening on the way up here, decided to listen to an audiobook, and it was
Power of positive thinking.
The Power of Positive Thinking. I'll tell you what, Dale, that's twice now I've got it wrong and you got it right. I'm going to hire you if there's a third.
Imagine having him as a boss. Man.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
My memory's
Oh,
shot.
would I?
He remembers everything.
No,
like
I don't.
Everything.
He's like, even if you don't want him to, he
That's right.
remembers everything.
I can't remember what I walked across the room to get now.
The Power of Positive Thinking, though, that was it. He talked about, having your prayer life right. I was so surprised at how spiritual of a book it actually was. I thought it was going to be, just something that was more motivational in nature as I was listening to it, and it's really good. But whenever I got here, I was kind of hit with that thought of how you're kind of you've done well to manifest your personality into your business, and obviously it shows through your employees, it shows through your family, and I certainly appreciate the hospitality that you guys allowed for me to be here, talk to you guys, stay overnight in our RV and crash your shed lot here, and spend some time with you, get to know you, and enjoy some good food. And just we've bumped into each other apparently at the Southern Indiana shed hauling event, Cliff Knapp and those guys down there, and hopefully I'll see you again whenever that comes around, if not this year, next, or the year after, if we can all get together. But appreciate it so much, you guys allowing me to be here. We're heading out. We've got about 10 more to do. We're going to be up in New York and Pennsylvania and all that. I'd like to tell the audience to watch for what I'm hoping will be out in a few months. We're going to try to put something together for post frame, or maybe it's going to be geared more toward carport. So who knows, maybe a Carport Geek podcast or something like that will come up where we can really talk about the nuance of carports and post frame and steel structures. It's a huge part of our industry. Even if we don't all embrace it, there's overlap from one to the next. So it'll be I've had to struggle with, do I consider it part of the Shed Geek podcast, and I think it kind of deserves its own space. So tell the audience to watch out for that. And just new things we're doing, fun stuff we're trying to incorporate. We'll throw some pictures of your sheds out if people want to take a look at those. Dale, I just appreciate your humbleness, your humility, and your memory today.
Well, I tell you what, my memory's not as good as some people think. I remember stuff I shouldn't remember, but I can't remember what I should. I don't know if anybody has that problem or not.
Well, as you can see here today, I struggle. I struggle with mental notes. I always like to say mental notes are a dangerous game to play. Always write it down. Tim, faithful employee, general manager, someone that I think we can all learn from. Appreciate your time today, and love to get to know you more.
Let's do it.
I just appreciate you letting me crash your evening here.
Anytime.
All right, man. Appreciate it. They even got me a nice little Beachy Barns hat to take away from this event today, so appreciate it. Guys, we're a fan of prayer here at the podcast. Dale, do you want to close us out in prayer? Just maybe pray over the industry and just whatever's on your heart.
Okay. Dear God, we just thank you for being with us another day, and I just thank you for the way you've blessed the shed industry. Just pray that you watch over each and every one as they go about their work and whether it's in the shop or driving truck or whatever it might be, Father. Just pray that you would keep your hand over each one, and just pray that we could also let our light shine for you wherever we go and whatever we do, and as an industry that we could bring honor and glory to your name. Just pray that you would be with Shannon and Deanna as they travel. Just pray that you would grant them safety and just bless the work that he's doing, and that you would just bless their ministry as they go from here. Just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys so much. And I remembered during that prayer, God just put it on my heart that the shed haulers were putting together, and this there's no telling when this podcast is going to come out. But it's never too late to give. And I think it was Josh. Is that right? Josh Stover? Joe Stover. Yeah. Josh's brother maybe that was involved in an accident. I know they had a GoFundMe account. So I always want to try to mention those things here. If you feel led to give, be sure to go check out the Shed Haulers Facebook page. Or I'm sure if you contact any of those guys over there, Jason or Sam or pretty much anybody that's involved with that part of the industry, they'll be glad to direct you into the right place to give. But you definitely want to do that. The shed industry takes care of its own a lot of times, and I know that they would be appreciative, if you would go and give. So thank you. Appreciate you guys for being on here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.